Hey y'all, Contessa here with another dose of nonsense on the web. And yes, buckle up because this one is a little bit painful. This is a clip from MollyGoLightly's channel from October 2nd. Molly posted this. It is a screen recording that Molly took off of another creator's channel and then reposted it on October 2nd. The original creator of the video is Kenya Walker. It was actually on her Facebook page. She did this video September 25th. So the video was done September 25th. Molly reposted said video October 2nd. And there is nothing but misinformation throughout this video. But you will see that Molly is once again encouraging this pass off of misinformation, like we've seen time and time again. They claim that the original creator of this is typically a TikTok creator and that TikTok needs to get a hold of this story. But some of the biggest creators that have covered this story have been TikTok creators, and that was months ago. But as we've all been seeing, there seems to be this desperate need for content and reamping up the story. Molly is once again encouraging the spread of misinformation throughout this video. You can see that she comments when she's screen recording, and her comments are very encouraging of the spread of misinformation. As always, this content falls under the fair use copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. And in this video, I am expressing my opinions based on the facts in this story. If you are still searching for facts in the story and or have questions, please ask. Please start asking the questions so people can start giving you factual information. Let's get into it.
Okay, so I have a message for Dre McCray. You need clinical help.
If you are looking for the original video on Facebook, just search Kenya Walker. Again, this was originally a Facebook video done by Kenya Walker on September 25th. Molly screen recorded it and posted it on her YouTube channel on October 2nd. Once again, Molly screen recording other creators' content and reposting it without giving clarification or credit to the original creators. That's something that she's been doing all along. But of course, I have an issue with what she's saying because she starts off saying, Dre, you need clinical help. Okay, you can have whatever opinions you want, but listen to what she says and where that opinion came from. Her opinion is based off of misinformation. And once again, opinions don't really matter on her personal life. So she can have an opinion, but at least base these opinions on facts.
You yourself need clinical help, and you can send as many people as you want after me. I am ready, but people need to know.
And with that, you can tell that this creator has been given information by a certain person or people, because she definitely thinks that just by her doing this video that all these people are going to come attack her. What she's going to be called out for is the constant flow of misinformation that she ran with. She was fed this information, obviously, by certain creators that have been passing a certain narrative. And said creators have been obviously inflating the story around it.
That you are an evil person and you are trapping this man who has been in a domestic abuse relationship for years.
I have to mention first and foremost that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we will be talking some about domestic violence also this month in regards to the broad picture, not just in regards to this story and what they've been trying to paint a narrative as. And once again, I'm not trying to sway anybody's opinions on what they think. I am trying to provide the facts of the story, which you will see that this is definitely not factual information that they are once again trying to pass off. I do once again find it interesting that Molly reposted this October 2nd. October 2nd.
If you don't know the story about Dre and McCray,
We're like maybe not even 2 minutes into this video, and she refers to him as McCray. His name is Marvon McCray. He was born Marvon Jackson Jr., and that name was changed due to adoption.
I highly suggest that you simply just go on YouTube, You can even Google it.
So you can just go on YouTube or simply Google his name, and you're going to find out a ton of factual information. Chances are, no, you're not. You're going to find out more misinformation just like she did. And we'll go through all of the misinformation that she picked out. I cannot wrap my head around a creator not doing any research and getting so many facts of this story so incorrect. It absolutely boggles my mind and infuriates me to no end.
But I will give you a brief summary here.
If you are new to this story and just picking up the story now, please go back and watch some of the old videos. This might not make complete sense to you. And her brief summary is brief but misinformation.
This couple has been together for many years.
Marvon and Dre were actually married in 2014. September of 2022 made 8 years. That is how long they've actually been together.
Now, has a very different outlook on how medicines and stuff affect the body. It's really more of a holistic approach. She definitely follows Dr. Shivi.
His name is actually Dr. Sebi.
And his practices, not remembering that he actually died of starvation.
Obviously, she didn't take her own advice and use Google, because if you even Google Dr. Sebi, you too will learn that Dr. Sebi died of pneumonia, not starvation.
The man died of starvation. Let's just put that out there.
So again, Google is free. You can find out all about Dr. Sebi and what he actually passed away from. Again, it was pneumonia, not starvation. But it's interesting that you see Molly commenting on this video in support of spreading this misinformation.
Now, when her husband, Vaughn, started having seizures.
And just to be clear on this, Marvon started having seizures in 2020. He had been suffering from seizures for over 2 years at this point in time. When the incident actually occurred on May 23rd, 2022, he had almost been suffering from seizures for a full 2 years. But of course, she doesn't give any context or information to support her claims.
Because of all of the medical stuff, all of the holistic stuff that he was taking. Do you know what she does?
So she starts to talk about all this holistic stuff. She mentions all of the holistic stuff, but doesn't go into the fact that they tried multiple avenues before the holistic approach. That was actually one of Marvon's decisions, was to try this diet. He spoke about it on a live stream, actually, and you too can watch that.
Nothing.
What she's saying right here is that he had been suffering from seizures for over 2 years, and that Dre and obviously Marvon, because he was a part of his medical decisions at the time, did nothing. They never sought help in those 2 years for the seizures, which we know isn't true. Marvon himself spoke about different treatments and things that he was attempting to try to overcome the seizures that he had been having for quite some time.
It gets so bad that he has to go to the hospital.
So you hear the creator say it gets so bad that he has to go to the hospital. Anyone that's been following this story knows that on May 23rd, 2022, in the early morning hours, that Marvon McRae attempted to unalive himself. That is how Marvon ended up in a coma at the hospital. That is not exactly what she's attempting to tell her audience. But once again, this is just nothing but a bunch of misinformation. The truth of the story is out there. The police reports are even out there detailing what happened the morning of May 23rd.
He gets into the hospital and she does not want them to give him any type of a modern medicine.
Notice Molly's comments once again on this video that instead of correcting misinformation, she's just going along with the spread of misinformation, which we expect from her at this point in time. And once again, what she's telling everybody, of course, we know is not factual. Marvon was actually life flighted from Yuma to Phoenix, then from Phoenix to Tucson to the VA. You can, once again, read the official police report. It details all of that information in the police report. Dre herself did lives talking about how she did not want the doctors to give him Keppra. That's what she talked about, and that she wanted him on a vegan feed. That's what she talked about. Nothing more really than that. She didn't want him on Keppra because she said he had had an allergic reaction in the past to it and he didn't tolerate it well. And then because they've been on a vegan alkaline diet, she preferred that he was given vegan feeds. That's the truth of what happened.
And any hospital that does not want to give him what she's giving him, which of course wouldn't be in a hospital, she moves him to a different hospital.
So this creator is obviously going to run with the same narrative that because the hospital wouldn't do what Dre wanted, then she just had him moved once again. Anytime they did something she didn't like, she just up and moved this patient. First and foremost, it is very difficult to have an incapacitated adult with the injuries that he suffered just moved. You have to find a specialty place that can care for his condition first and foremost. And those are limited. They're not just your run of the mill nursing home or facility. They are specialty places because of the injury to his brain and what type of care he needs. So up and just moving him willy-nilly like they're trying to make it sound isn't quite possible. It all has to be coordinated. And the doctors have to sign off on the transfer of the patient. The doctors do. And if the doctors felt that something wasn't right, they would have intervened.
And she does this 3 times.
She's stating that Dre had him moved 3 times.
Now let me talk to you about Von's family and why this is a domestic abuse situation.
So let's clarify what she's saying going into this. So she says, let's talk about the family and why this is the domestic abuse situation. But listen to how she passes that off as a domestic abuse situation. Just listen up.
Von's family lives in a completely different state. When they
Of course, we know that they all live in Georgia.
find out that Von has been hospitalized, they go immediately. They drive 8 hours.
Well, isn't it interesting that Wynette Jackson, the stepmother of Marvon McRae, actually corrects her and says, no, ma'am, my husband and I drove over 3,000 miles to see my husband's son, Marvon Jr.? I do find it interesting that Wynette took the time to correct that piece of misinformation, but didn't correct anything else that was said in this video. But I digress. The creator states that as soon as they learned, they basically got in their vehicles and drove to Arizona immediately. They found out about the 11th of June. Marvon Sr. and his wife, Wynette, made the drive to Arizona from Georgia on June 18th is when they left Georgia. They visited Marvon at the hospital from about the 22nd, and they returned to Georgia between the 26th and the 28th of June. They were allowed to see Marvon, but she'll bring up more about that, and we will break that down. She also doesn't clarify that Marvon Sr., Wynette, the stepmother, and Letitia Bias are 2 sides of the family, and that they are the biological parents, that Marvon was put up for adoption as a child, and his adoptive mom is alive.
8 hours to see their son.
I really would like to know if this information was provided to her, the 8 hours, since she said it twice, or did she actually come up with that on her own? I am having a really hard time understanding the train of thoughts these creators have when they just hit the button and spew anything out there that makes absolutely no sense.
As they should. They get to the hospital.
And of course, they don't take the time to separate any of the information of who's actually traveling from Georgia to Arizona, what dates this trip was taken, and or what had happened before this time. She doesn't talk about any of the text messages or any of the communication between Dre and the family previous to this.
And Dre says they cannot see his son. They cannot see their son. Of a matter of
And of course, she's not giving clarification. It was Marvon Sr., the biological father, and Wynette, the stepmother of Marvon McRae, that made the first trip from Georgia to Arizona to see him. Once they arrived at the hospital, yes, because of previous communication that had been happening with Dre, Dre was caught off guard when they showed up. Because Marvon Sr. also has some other situations going on that do make it difficult for him to leave the state of Georgia. Without going into details about that, most of you are already aware, but it took them some time and he had to make arrangements to make that trip possible. Now, she also isn't telling you that Letitia Bias, the biological mother, wasn't there.
In fact, she calls security and says that they all have to be escorted out.
And once again, we've gone over this many times, but that video Dre actually posted herself when Marvon Sr. walks up behind her and she asks for security. She was caught off guard and actually shocked. You can see the look on her face. And there's more to the story of what happened there and why she had that reaction.
Then, as they're escorted out,
if you want to see how this actually went down, again, the clips are out there. Dre posted them in her supporters group. I have put them in multiple of my videos explaining exactly what went down. You can hear what Dre says, what Marvon Sr. says, and what the social worker tells them both.
Of the nurses says, ma'am, you don't have the ability to tell the family that they can't see their family member in the hospital.
Again, the video's out there. You can see how it goes down. A social worker actually comes to intervene and tells Dre, according to policy, that they cannot stop them from visiting. She can not tell them the medical condition and or what's going on with his medical information, but she cannot prevent them from seeing him. There is absolutely nothing that they can do and or deny him access to seeing Marvon.
It's against our rules. If this is a visitor and it's their family member, they are allowed to see their family member. So she gets pissed and moves him to another hospital.
Just to remind you guys, this creator is doing this video on September 25th. The incident took place May 23rd. They were there to visit June 18th through the 26th. They made it to Arizona probably around the 22nd and returned to Georgia around the 26th to the 28th. But what she fails to also mention is that they were allowed to see Marvon. Marvon Sr. and Wynette were allowed to see Marvon due to that policy that she just talked about. They were allowed to see their son. And Marvon was moved after their visit. We've seen the text from Wynette telling Letitia that Marvon was being moved. After their visit, he was moved from the VA, which was already planned that he was going to be moved because he needed to be in a better facility to meet his needs, not in an ICU department. He needed to be in a longer term specialty care facility, is what has been stated time and time again.
But before she can do that, they actually do testing and they do a physical exam on her.
And once again, that's just not factual because they actually do blood draws and physical exams the moment that he would have arrived at the hospital off of Life Flight. That is done on a daily basis. They do blood draws every single day, multiple times a day at some points in the ICU department. That is standard procedure. And I also need to remind everybody that he was in the hands of professionals, specialty doctors mostly, who are mandated reporters, nurses who are mandated reporters. If they felt anything was out of place or not the story that they were told, they would have absolutely gotten Adult Protective Services involved right away, immediately. They have to. They're mandated reporters.
Husband and find burn marks.
So I'm guessing this information that she got must have came from her Google search or her YouTube search.
They find bruises.
There was a mention of an abrasion on his arm.
And they find cuts. Like actual knife cuts.
Once again, I have no clue where she got this information because it's just not factual. There was no mention of knife cuts in the initial report and or the follow-up report.
On him? And she says, oh, it's because he fell downstairs.
So remember, once again, Molly is sitting in this video making comments as she's screen recording it in support of this misinformation being spread. But there has been zero mention of Dre making a statement that Marvon fell downstairs. First and foremost, their house is a modular home. It doesn't even have stairs like she's describing. There is no stairs in their home. So where would this fall down the stairs have taken place in the first place? And exactly where did she get the statement that Dre made that he fell downstairs? I would love to know that specifically.
For whatever the reason, he is sent back home.
And now somehow we've jumped from they found knife marks, they found burns, they found bruising all over him, but he was sent back home. Okay? That's where she jumped to. That now he's been sent back home. And we know that that rumor got started by Letitia posting a poem on her private Facebook page, a poem written by somebody else. And that was interpreted into this whole scenario.
Into his wife's custody because she has power of attorney over her husband's medical decisions, financial decisions, and anything else.
And we do know that Dre is his legal POA.
So she goes back home, I suppose, nurses him back to health.
So hold on. Wait a second here. You want me to believe that a man who attempted to unalive himself, that was without oxygen to his brain for over 20 minutes is what they have said and or figured, somewhere in that range, that he was nursed back to health and sent home with his wife, that you are attempting to allege had something to do with all of these things that didn't exist, but that she's to blame for all of this in some way, shape, or form. But yet the hospital staff just sent him home, and then she nursed Marvon back to health. So at this point in the story, now Marvon is back to being healthy. Is that what we're getting out of this? Because that is so far. But I guess according to her, it must be true. It came from YouTube.
Which is not quite accurate. She doesn't really nurse him back to health. She gives him all of these herbs.
Oh, never mind. Quick switch up again. She doesn't nurse him back to health. Now we're back to he's not nursed back to health, that she's just giving him all these herbs. That's what they're trying to tell us. Okay. Just so everybody is aware, we have absolutely no confirmation whatsoever that Marvon has ever been sent home from any of these facilities. Zero confirmation whatsoever that he was ever sent home in Dre's care. There's been no confirmation of that whatsoever. Again, this story was ran with based on a poem that Letitia Bias had posted on her Facebook page. And it was a repost of a poem somebody else had written and that her cousin had shared previously.
Natural remedies, cranium or whatever.
So September 25th, this creator is once again telling us all that Dre has taken Marvon home and that she is using herbs such as the Special K to nurse him back to health. That's what we're supposed to believe. On September 25th, she is now coming out and saying this once again. And we know that it is complete misinformation, that this has not taken place. And if it has, there has been zero evidence or proof to back up any of this. Once again, all fabricated.
She gives him all these herbs, and I guess he's getting better, but...
Oh, we're quickly back to he's getting better again.
He has lost 50 pounds at least, and he looks terrible.
Both Marvon and Dre had significantly lost a bunch of weight from going on the Dr. Sebi alkaline vegan diet. That is when they started to lose weight. Marvon, of course, has lost weight since he's been in a coma. That is typical of what happens. But where would she be gaining these numbers? Who is giving her those?
You look at a before and after picture, because this is a man that was in the Marines. He's either in the Marines or he was in the Army.
So this goes to show that the information she gathered off of YouTube and or Google, as she claims, is 100% not factual. Marvon was a Marine veteran, but she doesn't even know for sure what branch of the military he is in. This is a very serious story, and she doesn't even know what branch of the military he's in. So she's throwing anything out there because it's one or the other, you know. Why not verify it? It takes 2 minutes, but we're just going to continue to run with misinformation and continue to spread it because why not? Why not?
This was a man that was perfectly built, probably weighed 210 pounds.
If you look at pictures of when Marvon was in the Marines to right before the incident, of course, you're going to see a significant weight loss. He had decided to go on the alkaline vegan diet. That was a choice he made. You can hear him talk about it in his own words. Go check out the missing puzzle pieces. They have all the videos that Marvon was making choices in his life. He was losing weight before the incident. And of course, anybody with a traumatic brain injury that's in an ICU or in a vegetative state, as he is, unfortunately, does lose
muscle
weight.
and everything. And now he is down to, at the time that he has left the hospital, now that he's back into her care, he has lost over 110 pounds.
So let's just replay some of what she just said. So she started off by saying that he lost 50 pounds. Now she says that he started off about 210 pounds. He went into the hospital. Granted, we know that he went into the hospital in a coma on May 23rd. But she's stating from the time he went into the hospital till Dre took him home that he lost 110 pounds. That would mean that he was sitting around 100 pounds at the current time when Dre took him home, which we know is not true. But where is she getting these numbers? Who has been providing her this information? Anybody know? Has anybody else heard anybody running around saying that he's lost 110 pounds and he's down to 100 pounds and that he was sent home with Dre? Seems like this is specifically done again to paint a certain narrative in a certain direction. That's what it seems to me, because none of this is factual information that has proof.
And he's still in a vegetative state.
We've gone all over the place. So first and foremost, he ended up in the hospital because of a seizure. Then he was sent home. Then he was nursed back to health. Then he fell downstairs. Now he's back in a vegetative state. Can you make it make sense? Because you've been all over the place and none of this is factual whatsoever. Whatsoever. Not a single bit of this has been proven or verified by a single person. And that's the problem with it. It's intentionally done to spread misinformation, to invoke emotion.
When I mean a vegetative state, he's at home, but he's only in bed. There's nothing he can do. He can't move his arms. He can't move his legs. I have no idea why the hospital decided to release him.
Now he's back to being in a vegetative state and being sent home by the hospital into Dre's care, which once again, we know has not been verified by a single reputable source, not a single one.
From the hospital care into her care, but this was her wish. And
so she's telling us that it was Dre's wish, that the doctors honored Dre's wish to take Marvon home. That's what we're supposed to believe right now. Okay.
Because she has power of attorney as his wife, that is what they did.
I've got a question for all my medical professionals or any of you that have been through a similar situation. But my question is it an easy process to send a severe traumatic brain injury patient home on any type of support? Is that something that is easily done, and or is there regulations about what type of training and or like around the clock care that the person would have to have available?
They sent him back to the home that caused the bruises, the burn marks, the cuts.
That's a pretty hefty allegation. So she's claiming that Marvon was sent back to the home that caused the bruises, the burns, and the cuts. So you know exactly what narrative she is trying to push off here and who has been also trying to push that narrative off. Oh, wait, it's the same person screen recording and sitting in the comments on this video, encouraging the spread of misinformation, who then reposted it on her YouTube channel on October 2nd. Yeah, that same creator has been trying to run with this same narrative. And the family has watched this video and not corrected it.
All because of a fall. Now,
again, I don't know where she is getting this information. There is not stairs in their home. It's a modular home, first and foremost. Get your facts straight before spewing all of this misinformation about a man's life. This is a Marine veteran's life. This is a serious situation.
I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this for years. Nobody believes me. Nobody wants to even acknowledge what I'm saying. Domestic abuse affects men too.
And now she's back into the domestic violence affecting men too, which we all are aware of, that domestic violence affects men too. But she's putting it in this story for a certain narrative. They're using this to pull on the emotions of other people. That's exactly what they're trying to do and amp the story back up.
It affects men as well.
Unless you live under a rock, you are aware of this.
It happens all of the time. It affects transgender people as well. It affects.
And once again, this is probably the only part of the video that I do agree with her on. Domestic violence affects everybody. It doesn't matter your skin color, your gender, anything. It can affect everybody. But since she brought up transgender specifically, I want to ask you something, Kenya, because I'm sure you'll be sent this. Did you know that MollyGoLightly, the lady that's in your comments encouraging this, has actually been attacking another BIPOC creator and calling her transgender or referring to her as RuPaul as a way to insult her? Did you know that? That MollyGoLightly has been intentionally insulting a BIPOC creator by trying to use a slur from the LGBTQ plus community against her. That's the type of creator that you've gotten your information from. That lady, the one that's condoning your behavior, also does that.
Everyone. It is not just women. When you isolate a person from their family and move them to a different state.
What she's attempting to allude to here is that Dre moved Marvon from Georgia away from his family to Arizona. What she's failing to mention is that Marvon and Dre met in Arizona when Marvon was in the service. That's when they first met. Marvon was already living in Arizona. Dre had nothing to do with him moving from Georgia to Arizona. Plus, she's also not telling you that Marvon had distance in his relationship with his family already.
And then, as you're getting married, decide that you want power of attorney.
That's not exactly how this played out.
Over all of their decisions? That is definitely a red flag. And that tells me that this man is in a domestic abuse relationship.
So wait, hold on. Because Dre has a POA over Marvon and his decisions in the event of something like this happening, that because they have that POA when they got married, that tells her that Marvon's in a domestic abuse situation, that he was intentionally isolated. That POA is a red flag because it shows what exactly? That's what I'm wondering, because it's actually pretty common for people to have POAs over their spouse in the event of a medical emergency. It's extremely common when somebody's been going through what they had.
If it sounds familiar to you, whether you are a female, whether you are male, if it sounds familiar to you, like the video and send a message.
So what she says here, if this sounds familiar to you and you identify with it, instead of calling and getting help by actual resources or trained professionals, you should like the video and send a message. How is that helping domestic abuse survivors or victims of domestic abuse? Can you explain that to me? How liking this video that's filled with misinformation is helping them with any of their domestic abuse or violence situations? Can you explain that to me? And exactly who are they supposed to message? Because I'm a little caught off here, first and foremost. Obviously, this is all for clicks and views because it's nothing but misinformation. I get that. But exactly how is this supposed to help people by liking your video? What is it doing for people that are in domestic abuse situations? Anybody make this make sense to me? Because it is right over my head.
I want justice for Vaughn. The reason why I'm filming this video right now is because this is happening in real time.
Just for some simple clarification, because she says she's doing this video right now because it's happening in real time. The incident was May 23rd, 2022. She is filming this on September 25th, months after the incident, months after so much has happened, but nothing that she's actually telling you in this video are facts of the story. She is taking bits and pieces and twisting and turning all of it.
And this all takes place on Facebook.
And that's absolutely not factual either. It has been on all platforms. People with over 1 million followers on TikTok covered this months ago. When the story first hit social media, it was covered by TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. It has been on all platforms. It is not just a Facebook thing. Yes, a Facebook group was made to go after Dre and seek justice for Vaughn. That's what she's probably referring to, but it has not been just on Facebook whatsoever, and everybody is aware of that.
This all takes place on Facebook. I'm actually on a different platform. My platform is TikTok, but
Hold on now, just a minute. You are claiming to be a TikToker. First of all, you're doing the video on Facebook, so it's obviously a Facebook video. Molly, it's a Facebook video, not a TikTok video. Your TikToker friend here is highly misinformed because it's been all over TikTok for months.
this is social media news.
I've been really trying to give some of these creators the benefit of the doubt and just thinking that they're just being told this information and they're taking it and running with it. But at the same time, I go back to accountability. When do these people ever take accountability for their missteps or mishaps? This has been complete misinformation that she intentionally spread. She has been called out on this information. I have watched people comment on her video and explain to her that she's highly misinformed. And instead of taking the video down or making a correction, she is actually arguing with people in the comments. Same with Molly. Molly's trying to justify all of her actions. We'll get into that
on
too.
every platform. Justice for Vaughn. Now,
Why do I start to feel like
I'm on the highway to hell.
just me or the rest of you start to feel like you're on the highway to hell too? Because I think we all might have taken a wrong turn somewhere.
as of right now, it is exactly 9:12 a.m.
So wake me up when it's all over. When I'm wiser and I'm older.
He is now being placed in a nursing home.
Remember, she's filming this September 25th, 2022, and there has been absolutely no confirmation that Marvon has actually been moved to a nursing home. Zero confirmation or factual information that supports this claim.
He is 35 years old or somewhere around there.
Marvon is not 35 years old either. Marvon was born in 1992. He actually was born in November and would be turning 30 this next month.
And because they're not getting along in the home, or because he's in a vegetative state.
So can you explain to me exactly how a man in a vegetative state could not be getting along in the home with his wife? Can you explain that to me? Can somebody make it make sense to me? Because once again, none of this makes a bit of sense to me, and I'm sure most of you also, because it just doesn't add up and it's not the facts of the story. Again, but they put their own spins on it and make themselves sound completely lacking of any credibility whatsoever.
She's unhappy, and allegedly, he is now in a nursing home.
So now she's saying that because they couldn't get along in the home, he's in a vegetative state. Dre is unhappy and sent Marvon back to a nursing home. So what she's trying to tell us through this video is that Marvon was sent home on Dre's wish. Then, because they couldn't get along in the home, or because he's in a vegetative state, she can't decide which one, but Dre opted to send him to a nursing home. That's what she's trying to tell us in this video, which we know none of that is verified.
Please listen to what I'm saying.
Please do your own research.
If you have a brother, if you have a cousin, if you have a dad, and they're telling you that something doesn't seem right, please, I am begging you, listen to them.
And again, I will agree with her on the fact of domestic violence. If you have somebody that you're concerned about, please encourage them to reach out for help. Of course, always. But she's mixing it into this story because it fits a narrative that they've been trying to push. What they're not telling anybody is that Marvon had been talking to his biological father. He had reconnected with Letitia, but he did not express these concerns to them. He had expressed concerns previously. We've seen texts from 2019 when they were having issues in their marriage. He had reached out to friends of theirs and other people that they were closely connected to. His family wasn't that for him. So, of course, they didn't have any idea of where his mental status probably was at the time. But again, I agree. If you're struggling or going through something, please reach out to those around you. But they're trying to pass off a false narrative by saying stuff like this. That's all they're continuing to do.
It doesn't just affect women, it affects men too.
Again, trying to circle the narrative back to an emotional pull.
Please, that is my only message. Listen when people say that something doesn't feel right.
I'll be very honest. It is hard for me to react to videos like this because I take situations like domestic violence, domestic abuse, as she has called it, very seriously. So while I agree with her on some of those aspects about people that are in domestic violence situations, please reach out, seek help. I agree with that. But mixing it into this story at this point in time is not the right narrative. It is absolutely a fake narrative that they are trying to intentionally push off and pull on emotions from their audiences. That's how they're trying to amp this right back up. That's what we've seen happen time and time again. They know that this is misinformation, but they don't care. Obviously, they don't even care enough to do their research to get the facts of his name, his age, simple things, simple details don't matter to them.
And the moment that you hear news that someone is moving into a different state to be with their girlfriend or boyfriend.
And again, this is just not the situation that happened in this story. What she's trying to say is that Marvon moved to Arizona so she could isolate him away from his family. Marvon was already in Arizona. Marvon was in the Marines when Dre and him met. That is how they met, was he was stationed in Yuma, Arizona. That is a big piece of this that they are once again trying to just skirt right on over. Isolation is something that happens in domestic violence situations. That is something that we do see oftentimes with domestic abuse, domestic violence situations. But again, Marvon was already living in Arizona.
Ring the alarm. And you haven't met them? Ring the alarm.
It infuriates me to watch this creator continue to pass off misinformation over and over and over again in this video. But what even makes me angrier is that Molly, while she's screen recording this, has been making comments supporting this misinformation being spread over and over again. Also understanding that this timing is completely inaccurate. Molly knows this stuff, but instead of being truthful or transparent, she just continues to, oh, yep, carry on. You can be his voice on TikTok. Yeah, there's comments like that. This keeps going back to the piece that Marvon was adopted, though. His biological parents, Letitia Bias, Marvon Sr., had met Dre once or twice before because Marvon himself was adopted as a child. His great-grandmother raised him as her own. Dre has a great relationship with his mom, aka great grandmother, who raised him. So he did have her around his family. But again, it goes back to he was adopted, and they're trying to just skirt right over that information so people still think that this is what they're saying it is, and it's really not.
Ring the alarm. Isolation is the number one number one cause. And it's the number one reason that people don't know about these stories of domestic abuse.
There's a lot of topics that people will not address on social media because there's a stigma behind those topics, such as domestic violence, mental health, all of it. But people absolutely have been aware of this story since May 28th. Dre told her supporters on May 28th that Marvon was in a coma. The family found out that he was in a coma on June 11th. June 11th. She is making this video on September 25th. Molly reposts it October 2nd, months after he's been in a coma.
They do it so that they can isolate them from their families. And I've been in a situation like that before.
But again, she goes back to they do it so they can isolate them from their families, meaning that Dre isolated Marvon from his family. The family members that she is speaking on are his biological family members. He was adopted. Again, he had a great relationship with his adoptive family. He was in contact with them.
I almost got into a situation like that before, where someone wanted me to move to a different state, away from my family, knowing that if I did that, they have complete control.
And again, I'm sorry for anybody that has had to go through domestic violence situations or domestic abuse. Nobody deserves that. But your personal experience is guiding your emotion in this story. And again, you're not explaining the facts of the story. You're going off of your emotion and your experience.
That's the end of the video. Please listen to what I'm saying. If you're a guy, I hear you. I hear you. If you're a woman that's been in a domestic abuse relationship, I hear you. But this guy needs our help.
Exactly what does this man need our help for? I would love to hear a breakdown of what it is that hasn't been attempted to be done already, because the followers of these big creators have contacted everybody from the police department, APS, CPS, every government agency, the military, everything else. What else needs done? It's been 4 months. 4 months. He has been in the care of professionals the entire time. If there was something that needed done, those professionals would have rang the bell, like you said. They would have made these phone calls and stepped in immediately. They have to. They're mandated reporters. They absolutely have to. Yes, you might get one or two that overlook some stuff, but you're talking many, many professionals here. Not one or two. We're talking 10, 12 at least. By this time, who knows how many specialists have seen him and people in authority.
He's going to die. He is going to die. That's it.
And she chooses to end her video like this. He is going to die. He's going to die. That's it. If that's the prognosis, then why did you say all this other stuff? That's not true whatsoever. Because you've taken your followers on an emotional roller coaster here, basically stating that he was being nursed back to health, that he fell downstairs, all of these other things that are just complete fabrications of the story. It is not his story. And once again, you've had plenty of time to correct the misinformation and you've chose not to.
Everyone have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday, and hopefully there's justice for Vaughn. Hashtag justice for Vaughn. All right.
And I'll ask you guys once again, do you think justice is a word that fits this story? What do you think Marvon deserves justice from? I'm really genuinely curious to hear your opinions and your thoughts at this point in time. Again, we're 4 months in. 4 months in. She filmed this September 25th. But we're going to continue a little bit further into this. These are the comments on Molly's video. Molly reposted this video on October 2nd. And you will see in her comments from her followers that some people are saying, where did she get this information? It's not factual. And watch as they go through. This comment above. This woman is awesome for putting this out there. I hadn't heard about the burns or the bruises. Prayers, prayers, and more prayers for Vaughn and his sweet mama. First and foremost, you hadn't heard about that stuff because it's not factual information once again. It is completely fabricated information to fit their narrative. There was one comment about an abrasion on the police report on his arm. Another comment, something really needs to be done for poor Marvon. What exactly needs to be done for poor Marvon? Molly responds and says, keep praying for him and his family. Which, okay, continue to pray for Marvon and his family. That is reasonable, 100%. But all of this extra that they're doing is absolutely unnecessary. Another comment says, that was a wonderful video. I'm 100% agree. Justice for Vaughn, sending prayers. Again, what do these people think that justice means? What would justice look like for Marvon? That's what I would love for these people to explain to us, that what does justice mean for Marvon? Another comment says, this is the most information we have gotten on Vaughn since it started. How does she know this much about his status? If you listen to Molly's recent statements, she says flat out that there is no current updates on Marvon, that the only person that can give an update would be Dre, and she is not talking. So once again, how do they have all this information that they're continuing to pass off? And Kenya didn't just pull this information out of the air. Molly didn't just randomly find Kenya's video on Facebook and start commenting on it, screen recorded it, and reposted it. This is a continued narrative that they continue to try and sell to everybody. We've talked about the strong emotional pull this has had on people. One of the comments says, I feel nothing but intense hatred for those who isolate people from their families. And once again, that just proves what we've been saying all along, that most of this has been done for an emotional reaction from their followers, because they hope to be able to gravitate their followers to the emotional side of this, therefore invoking this emotion and this hatred that people have found. You can watch it in the comments. Why isn't she in prison already? It's so frustrating. Another comment says, I haven't heard of the falling down the stairs story. Molly happens to respond to that comment. And Molly says, me neither. But while she was commenting on the video, you didn't see Molly correct that misinformation that was being spread, did ya? And we also didn't see Wynette or any of the other family members step in and correct any of this misinformation from being spread further. We saw that Wynette corrected that trip was being longer than 8 hours, but that's the only thing she corrected. And that to me is very, very intentional and or obvious. You also see that people are asking if Marvon has been released from the hospital. Molly responds and says yes to those comments. But where's the proof of that? And they're still continuing to say that they have no information about what's going on. So how did they get that exactly? Because it's just been within the last couple days that we've heard Molly again state that they don't even know where Marvon is at the current time. So how would they know that he was released from the hospital into Dre's care if they don't know where he's at? So which story is it? Which, I guess it depends on which day it is. Another comment says, this video is so confusing to those of us who have been following from the beginning. I don't do TikTok, so I don't know who she is. But what she is saying is not 100% true. So even people that follow Molly, once again, these are Molly's followers, people that are commenting on Molly's repost of this video, are saying this is not factual information. But then you have Molly's other followers who are, oh, thanks for the update. This is such great information. Let's continue to spread this misinformation all over the internet. And unfortunately, that's the majority of her followers. And even some of the comments that are calling out some of this misinformation or asking where this misinformation came from, they too have the dates wrong. The lady in the comment before on the screen said May 27th. The incident was May 23rd, 2022. And then, of course, there's comments like this. Have I heard this right? He's died. Molly hearts that comment, but doesn't respond to it. So what is that follower exactly supposed to think when she hearts their comment, but doesn't respond to it? Again, that seems pretty intentional to me, but we're going to go through those comments a little bit more here in a minute because I went through and picked out some of the ones that I was sent in screenshots that I really want to address. And I'll be straight up honest. I don't know who I'm more disgusted with in this situation, if it's Molly or the original creator of this video, because the original creator of this video had to get this information from somebody. It seems like it was intentionally given to her so she could do these videos and amp this back up. What was happening around this 25th of September? Were things starting to change on YouTube potentially? Does anybody else remember? And then why on October 2nd did Molly decide to go take this video, screen record it, and repost it? Let's look at a few of these a little bit closer. This one says, this is the most information we have gotten on Vaughn since this all started. How does she know this much about his status? Molly says, and what does Molly respond? She doesn't, but at least it spread to TikTok. Molly, I have a clip of you thanking Aunt Karen, who has over 1 million followers on TikTok, and a bunch of other people who have TikTok platforms for covering this story months ago. This story has been on TikTok for months. It was covered by people with huge platforms that make yours look like a tiny little speck. It's been on TikTok forever. And another one says, oh my God, I missed something. He's back with Dre. Molly says she had him home, shipped him back. A follow-up comment to that says, no way should she get away with all of this. She's the reason all of this happened. She's truly evil. Let's look at another comment. So it has been confirmed that Vaughn is now home in Dre's care. Somebody responds and says, he was, but she has him in a care home. She couldn't deal with him, apparently. Molly responds and says, she sent him to another place. This was a day ago. Okay, maybe 2 days now. This one I wanted to give a high five to. Dre's house is a track home. There is no stairs. Molly responds to this comment by saying she's new about the creator. First and foremost, no, she's not new. And you had the opportunity to correct this misinformation. And what did you do? You sat there and encouraged it to be spread. That's all you continue to do. Let's keep going. Hold up. Vaughn was released from the hospital and sent home. What is going on? Oh my God. Molly responds and says, yes. Once again, all of us know that she has absolutely no verification or proof of this, but she is going to continue to pass it off because she posted this video. So now she's being asked questions, but she's not going to really be honest with them. You're supposed to just trust her, believe her. And another one. So wait, the hospital released Marvon? Molly responds, yes. The commenter says, at MollyGoLightly, that's scary. And Molly, of course, hearts her comment. So can anybody else tell me that this isn't intentionally being done? Does anybody else really honestly think that this is not intentional? Because if you do not think that it is intentional, I would love to hear why you do not feel that this is intentional and or what your opinions really are on what she's doing. And of course, there's another. This person says, I haven't heard of the falling down the stairs story. Molly responds, me either. Somebody else follows up and says, maybe she got that wrong. The doctor didn't die from starvation either. It was pneumonia. Oh, wait. Molly's followers are even correcting this misinformation, but then at the same time, excusing the misinformation. Maybe she got that wrong. That's a little bit of a big piece to just get wrong on a story like this. And this one, again, gets a high five. This person says, this doesn't seem real accurate from the story that we've heard. Falling down the stairs? Molly, of course, hearts that. But then she follows up and responds and says, she's new from TikTok. Again, the story has been on TikTok for months, covered by massive creators. What does being from a different platform have anything to do with her not fact checking? This comment right here, burn marks and bruises. This is the first time hearing of that one. Shocked. Somebody follows up and says, I remember bruises consistent with his attempted S, cuts consistent with the fall from when Dre cut him down. I won't believe cuts with a knife and burn marks until I see documentation. That wasn't on the reports from the police. Molly responds and says, it was in the police report. Remember the cuts on his forearm? To which the commenter responds and says, I just looked. The report reads, injury. Marvon McRae had an abrasion to his left arm and was on a ventilator at the Yuma Regional Medical Center, which could be consistent with the fall when Dre cut him down. An abrasion is different than knife cuts. The report doesn't say knife cuts on the forearm. I did leave a comment on her video asking where she got this information. Somebody else responds and says, MollyGoLightly, exactly. Huge high five to this original commenter of this comment and her response to Molly, absolutely putting Molly in her place with, once again, the facts of the story with the actual police report. And then another one, is Vaughn in a care facility, rehab? Did Dre really bring him home? Molly responds and says, yes, catch and release. What the actual fuck are you talking about, Molly? Catch and release? This is a human being. A human being. We're not talking about trapping raccoons. What the fuck are you doing? You have lost your ever-loving mind. This commenter obviously watched the video and then she says, oh wow, so he woke up or is he still in a coma? Molly responds and says, we don't know. Wait, I thought you just said that he was sent home and all this other stuff. So now you're telling us that you actually don't know. I mean, we've heard you say that many times, but according to this video, you all know exactly what's going on with him, don't you? Because half the comments you're saying, yep, she sent him home. And then here you're saying, we don't know. And here, of course, is another one asking, Vaughn is back with Dre? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Molly hearts the comment and then responds to it and says, no, she couldn't handle him. So if nobody is talking to Dre and getting information from Dre, how do you know that, Molly? Another up top high five to this commenter. Where is this girl getting her info? Molly says, TikTok is new to the story. Again, Molly, that's just not true. You know that. You've thanked these huge TikTokers, the ones that are like 10 times bigger than you'll ever be, for covering this story. They did that before you even got involved. You remember there was a lot of people involved in this story before you made such a huge disaster out of things. And of course, another commenter says, I missed something. Cuts, question mark, question mark, question mark. Molly responds and says, yes, on his forearm. But in the video, she did not clarify that it was just on his forearm, according to the police report. Molly absolutely sat there and never said a word and hasn't to the creator that her information is not correct. She, once again, encourages the pass of misinformation and or inflated information. And another one, where did she get this information? I hope it's not true. That's a lot of weight loss and burns, cuts, and bruises. Oh my God. Can you imagine what her response is going to be? Molly says there were cuts on his arm. He was in bad shape. She's new to the story. So because she's new to the story, that means that she doesn't have to fact check and she can just run with misinformation. Oh, wait, that's kind of the theme of what you all do over there. So of course you would encourage continued pass off of misinformation because guess who benefits? You. I have to say, I was actually proud of the followers that actually are asking questions and calling her on some of this shit because they too know that this is not factual information. This one asks her, never heard of the marks on him. Molly, is that true? Molly responds and says, yes, cuts on his arm. But she could go into detail and say, according to the police report, he had an abrasion on his left arm. That the original creator of the video that Molly reposted was not being accurate with her description. That's what she should have said. But of course she doesn't because it benefits her. And of course, there's more. Somebody else says, why hasn't CPS been there? Molly says, they have. Well, I don't know for sure if CPS has been there, but I do know that CPS was contacted over and over and over again. And actually, the CPS worker joined the Justice for Vaughn Facebook group on Facebook. If you haven't seen those messages, yes, they're on Facebook and in videos too. There has been many things that were done in this case and or the story that have been horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. There has been so much misinformation spread about CPS, APS, what's happening. It's insane. I might have already went over this one previously, but I'm putting it in here again because this one just chops my ass. This comment says, fell downstairs, burns, cuts, and bruises, question mark, question mark. Molly responds and says, I don't think she knows all of the complete details. The commenter follows up and says, as always, prayers for Vaughn, but this doesn't seem accurate. Why post this if it's not accurate? Another commenter says, I hope it gets cleared up. This was a couple days ago, and no corrections have been made, and the video is still up. And the final comment we're going to go over is this one. This commenter says, 99% of what she's saying isn't correct. Who is she anyways? This is crazy to me. Molly follows up, and all she responds is saying, I wouldn't say 99%. So I think what she meant to say is 99.9% of it is not accurate, because that's more fitting. Again, absolutely makes zero sense why a creator would risk their entire reputation on something like this. This is a very serious story about a man's life, a man who is in a coma, and his family has gone through absolute hell because of social media. This has been a story that has been on social media for months and continues to be lied about over and over and over again. But now we have creators jumping in and completely fabricating entire news stories, things that we know have never taken place and or that there is absolutely zero proof of. This creator even took it a step further and responded to people commenting on her post and said that he had to be untied from a tree. She has edited that comment 3 times now. And yes, I do have the proof of that. But instead of removing the post, they continue to lie about things. And when people ask questions or point out inconsistencies in their story, they excuse it with some more bullshit and keep it moving. They never go back and correct the misinformation. Usually they don't take it down. Molly did take down one video recently, but she knew that was an old video, and she knew exactly what she was doing by posting that. Just like she knew exactly what she was doing by posting this. Molly sat in the comments, screen recording this, and encouraging this creator to continue to spread misinformation. It really disturbs me that the family has watched this video and opted to not correct the misinformation about their loved one. This is Marvan's story. This is Marvan's life. And they are out here letting creators make a mockery of him and his family, choices that he made as an adult man. And they are letting creators belittle him and his life over and over again. And not one of them has taken the time to stand up and say, enough of this. Stop passing misinformation off about our loved one. They won't do it at all. This video absolutely had me furious because it is such a desperate attempt for content by MollyGoLightly. She is grasping onto anything she possibly can in this story to amp it back up so she can get her views and clicks back up. She needs that money, obviously. And it's sad because this is a person's life. This is a man's story, his life that has been lied on over and over and over again. And they have no care about that whatsoever. It's all about what's in it for them, what benefits them. I've watched a lot of the content that's been produced on this story recently and pure horror, but this one especially was very triggering for me. How can anybody just be so careless to disregard all of the facts in the story and not take any time to research the facts and get any of the information correct? There is a lot of information that she could have found that's factual to tell her followers about this story, but instead she chose to run with this fabricated narrative that they continue to push off in one certain direction. Tell me what you guys think. I know some of you guys have already seen this and absolutely were mad as hell, just the same as I was. I appreciate you all for being here and watching another one of my videos. I'm sorry this one was hard for me to even get through, and I tried to keep my tongue to a minimum, but it was really hard because there is a lot more that I could have said and would like to. With that, though, I will say thanks once again for watching. Contessa, over and out.